Okay, so some tips on college. And I'm excited to talk about this because it's something I've actually lived as well. I'm going to give you some tips that are not as common. But on the more traditional side, let me share with you some highlights that I shared with a college student in some coaching actually not that long ago. Was talking to them, they're finishing up some college. They had done like a dual enrollment type of thing. Um, and been able to amass some credit that way, and then kind of done the local community college thing. Great way to save money for a few years. And then now they're finishing up their education in another spot. And I remember one of the things we were talking about is okay, you're gonna be working was the plan. The young man wants to work while he's in college. Okay, well, what if you can find a company that will actually pay for some of your college costs? There are a number of them out there. You have to look at the specifics, and they might only cover certain types of degrees, but you might be able to do that. If not, what if you could get a paid internship in the career space you want to move in and start getting actual experience? And so trying to even use that job situation strategically if you can is great. Plus, it is proven that if you work during college, you actually tend to do better in college in terms of like your grades and stuff. If you're working as well, you tend to develop more time management skills and more discipline, and there's actual studies you can go look up about that. Now, some other tips about college, particularly for maybe the parents and the grandparents on the call. There are different types of savings plans you can use for that. You might want to look into some things like the ESA. 529 plans are really interesting. Make sure you got one where you have control of how you're managing the investments and that type of a thing. Though they're not, every plan out there is created equal, let me put it that way. Just make sure you understand what you're doing, whether you do it on your own, or whether you choose to work with a professional, which can be great as well. But the neat thing about 529 plan is there's fairly generous compensation amounts. Other people can contribute in addition to mom and dad. And the other thing is, it also is a very tax beneficial thing. There's even components to it that allow for reimbursement of like K to 12 private education, and so that's kind of cool. Now there's some other options out there if you're doing a private school thing where you might get even better advantages for like putting the money in there and then paying it out of that to your child's school. There might be ways to be saving yourself some money on the taxes as you're paying for your kids' private education, which is not that cheap, right? Some other things to throw out there have to do with this book, and this camera screen is kind of backwards. Accelerated Distance Learning is the title of this book. It's an older book, and there's other ones that have come out, but this one was real helpful for me because how I did college was very alternative. So I had the blessing of being homeschooled growing up, and then my last year of high school, I was dual enrolled in college. I got a few credits, and then what I did is I learned during high school a lot of the history behind college. And that is that Ford, Rockefeller, and Morgan, the tycoon industrial giants of the past, they really invented, modern high school. American education used to end around eighth grade, and then you would go off to college or trade school, or even get married. They got married younger and that type of thing. But life and education was pretty much completed then, and it was a lot more rigorous than now. Don't believe the educational quacks that tell you that we have this more robust education day. Maybe there's certain aspects of that because of technology that were more robust, but the critical thinking skills and ability to communicate and understand history, no, we're not even close. You can read the final exams of eighth graders exiting their educational career in one-room schoolhouses in the United States. But how did the high school thing begin? Well, those industrial tycoons that I mentioned, they funded the building of tons of high schools all over the country and helped to get this in place because they wanted industrial factory workers. So they developed a system of education where you hear the bell ring. Why? Because you're going to be trained by these bells, if you will, conditioned like Pavlov's dog, and have your breaks and different things if you work in a factory. And so they gave you a little bit of college, which today is still in place. Your first 2 years of college in a 4-year bachelor's program is pretty much all review of high school. It's called your general education. So what's the tip? Well, there's CLEP tests, And there are Dante's tests, DSST or DANTEST. They've gone by both names I've seen when I did it. Dante's tests originally were for the military. Then they opened them up to everybody to use. And there's some other ones out there too, but those are the primary two ones. And if you take these tests, you can take a standardized exam that's like 90 minutes long. Almost majority of them are multiple choice. And you can take these exams for a proctor fee. It's much less than it would cost you to take the course, and it's a pass-fail on your transcript. Now, if you fail it, you're going to have to wait some time to do it, but I studied intensely, and the program that I followed with a academic coach when I was in college was about every 2 weeks. All I would study for 2 weeks was one subject, and I knocked out about 70-75% of my degree, and so basically I knocked out the general ed and some of my electives, and some things that I had gotten job experience in. I was able to do some other types of things. I did a PLA, a prior learning assessment, which if you've had any experience in the job market, adults, and you're working on a degree, you can get like experience for the life, you can get credit for the life experience you've already done. You put it together, you put a portfolio, you put a bunch of papers and different information together to prove that you've learned it, and submit it and pay their review fee, and you very well may get the credit. I did that for a course. And the point is that there are ways to lower the cost by taking those classes and for about 2 weeks focusing on one subject, and then I would go take the test, and I'd have my books ordered for my next one, and be studying that for the next 2 weeks or so, and then taking it. It just was awesome. And there's review tests and all that type of thing. But those of you who are in the professional world know, and I've done this in different types of things, in education and in different professional things, I've had to pass certifications. And you're essentially studying a book, taking some type of standardized or credentializing test, getting that certification, and moving on. For those that are moving into like computer-based businesses and stuff, computer programmers and that type of thing, it's a lot less about the degree these days, and it's a lot more about the certifications. Do you have a certification to be able to do certain types of code? Do you have a certification for certain things in Google or certain things with Microsoft? If you have those things, and chances are you're going to need them even if you get a bachelor's degree, you can potentially skip the degree. So it's a different way of thinking of college. I will throw one other tip out there in another video in regards more specifically to the job market and what for your kids and grandkids to expect. And by understanding some of that data, it might be very helpful as you think how you can support them and encourage them.